Recording. All right, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to the sponsors. The sponsor is me. So I've got Australian Mining Machines book, Mining Machines Colouring In book, Australian Paramedics book, Australian Defence Force Machines book, Australian Surf Lifesavers book, Australian Firefighters book, Australian Police Vehicles, all available on Facebook under Children's Books by Aaron White. Grab yourself a copy if you've got some kids. They're awesome. And also, see the shirt Dixie's is wearing right now? Off Access. That's our mate Wolfie. That's his clothing brand. He does like gym apparel and stuff like that. So check that out on Off Access. Probably offaccess.com. But there's also Off Access on Instagram, Facebook, all that type of stuff. All right,
exactly
cool.
Right, mate. Just adjust your tilt is the mojo.
Dude, and it means so much to Wolfie and to all of us.
Absolutely.
Have a proper think about it. All right, cool. Do the little intro. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Aaron White Show. And I'm your host, Aaron. Today we have a fantastic guest, Mikey Dix. Mikey is a FIFO worker and a beast in the gym. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, man? Thanks for having us.
Nah, you're welcome. Hey, basically today I just want to hear your story. Can you tell me how and where you grew up, any life-changing events, and how you end up doing what you're doing today?
Oh man, I suppose the life story doesn't really start till about 2007. To be honest, I've grown up in at the time I suppose a small country town of Manjimup, and moved to good old Bunbury, good old Bun Vegas, back in the very early 2000s. Father's a teacher, mum works in local government relations, and we just moved along with dad's teaching works. So, and as I say just now, the old story starts in about 2007. I was 17 years old, just finished school, and, I was living in Perth doing some studies in occ health and safety. And that all came to an abrupt, very, very quick end, unfortunately, because my older brother, Lawrence, he was shot and killed at the front of our house, at our household, back on of all days, April Fool's Day. So, as you can imagine, that's probably the first and the most significant life-changing event in my life to date. It just changes the whole aspect of life, man. Like you have this whole life plan set ahead of yourself, and like I said, I was living in Perth and doing study works to try and better my life and start my life essentially. I've only just finished school, and then having to forcefully move home purely because of the event that occurred. So that's pretty much where it starts, man. And life kind of more or less spiraled out of control a fair bit from there. I'm 17-year-old, very impressionable young man, and it eventuated into use of drugs and a hell of a lot of alcohol, and really bad life decisions, trying to escape a reality that I didn't want to be living. And of course, along the lines, there's depression and my own significant decline in mental health. And at the same time, trying to take care of my family. My two younger brothers, who this event actually happened in front of, at the front of the family home. And so that, of course, just life became quite difficult. We still are now a very, very close-knit family, very, very loving and humbled family. And at the time, we were more so as well, but it's just one of these significant events. You either makes or breaks a family. Like you either separate completely and you escape whatever reality you were living as a family, or you go the opposite direction. You become really close knit, and we did that, which is we're very fortunate to be a very open and an honest family as well, but within each other. So that's where that started, and so of course I finished up in Perth and moved home, and I got a job in the bank of all places. I was working for Bank West there for a fair while, and I jumped around and did that for a while. I worked in insurance there for a bit, and I just got fed up of working in the politics of the office. So I got into the mining industry. My mother actually assisted me with getting in there. She was a manager at Boddington, or one of them in Boddington there for a while. She was the social responsibilities manager, and she gave me some assistance to get into the area and into the industry, and the rest is history work-wise, I decided to start the gym. After about 3 or 4 years, solid addiction, binging on pretty much whatever drugs and alcohol and food, especially. I got extremely overweight, just at a depression, and I thought, well, I need to better myself. I need to just change, simply just change. So that's when I found the gym, and it was more or less part time for about 5 or 6 years, just in and out of the gym, doing what I got to do, just to try and make myself feel healthy and feel good about myself. I suppose it wasn't until about 2017, after getting into a bit of strongman sort of stuff, and I watched, everyone knows him, but old Eddie Hall. I got into just watching him and watching how he did it, and I thought, oh, shit, I want to do that. I want to have a crack. I want to learn how to lift heavy things. I want to, be proud of myself, essentially. So I just followed him and had a bit of a crack. And the last 2 years, I've been training quite heavily, as well as in the gym. Trying to get some really heavy weights up on the bar, and I achieved all my goals. I ended up, like, body weight wise, I ended up getting to about 135 kilos at my strongest. I don't like using the word heaviest because I didn't see myself as heavy. When you're doing these sort of things, like, you need to change that mental game. You need to change that, how you perceive yourself, how you look at yourself. Because I didn't see myself as heavy. I saw myself as strong, and through doing that, I was able to encourage a whole heap of young blokes by using the gym and just teaching them how to have a crack. And so I achieved all my heavy weights on the bar. I was benching up to 220 kilos. I think you helped me with the spot a couple of times. And I achieved the 300 dead and 350 squat. So and that was that up to about I think it was July this year, just going July, August time. And then I saw a photo of myself, and a mate of my wife's, she basically told my wife Samantha that Mike's looking pretty excessively top heavy nowadays. And then I took it with a grain of salt. I looked at it, looked at the photo that she was talking about, and then that changed my mental game all over again. And I've decided now to basically strip all that weight, strip absolutely, or not absolutely everything. I want to try and maintain the strength. And with the use of my cousin Tom, he's a nutrition coach, and he's been assisting me a lot with how to work on that mental game, as well as getting the right nutrition into my body to be able to maintain what strength, and even things to like libido. That's a massive thing when you're losing a lot of weight, because you can lose a lot of your sexual stuff. You lose all aspects of that. So I've so far in the last two and a bit months, I've stripped about 12 kilos. So first time in a very long time, I've been just shy of 125 kilos, which is pretty cool. It's hard to move on the old treadmill. Hard to move about 122 kilos at the moment, but we're getting there. And also with the assistance of some close mates at the gym at work, I'm learning how to box, which is pretty cool. It's just having a crack, I suppose.
Well, that's awesome.
And Yeah. Cheers, man. Cheers. Well, obviously, you're one of the main assistances up there as well. You know, teaching me how to box this last couple of swings, and yeah, it's just been yeah, interesting to say the least.
Oh, definitely, it's cool, and you're looking a lot better, like fitness wise and stuff like that. Obviously, you look
Yeah, cheers,
looking
man.
strong. We got heaps of different ways we can go with this. Can I backtrack and ask? It's Lawrence, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Can I ask why Lawrence got shot? Was it like a bikey drug related thing? Was it what happened there?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so it was definitely drug related. He was so at the time, yeah, he was yeah, heavily into his methamphetamines, and he owed a dealer $100, and yeah, literally $100 ticked out, I suppose, and well, no, I suppose it was, and so yeah, the time these dealers decided to rock up to my home and come to collect, of course. So the situation panned out that they parked at the front of the house on the roadside. The dealer himself went to the front door, knock, knock, asked Lawrence for the money. Lawrence said, no, I don't have it. And then he decided to start walking off with one of my younger brother's bicycles as, as collateral until Lawrence could provide the money. Lawrence went after him, said, no, you can't take my brother's bike. And next thing you know, shots were fired. And the rest is history, man. Like if you were to go back 5 or 6 years, you couldn't ever get me to talk about it. But nowadays, like it's the accepting side of things. Like you can't change anything that's happened. Like even at the time, like you couldn't change what happened. But I suppose it's the wanting to wait for him to walk around the corner and say, "Hey, go on, April Fools." Yeah. So with that, yeah, it was literally over $100 drug debt, man. So and yeah, makes me an absolute massive hypocrite for hit the drugs and escaping that reality to basically just get through.
So did you really feel like that? Like after, like you couldn't talk about it after because in the back of your mind, saying that makes it real, and by not saying it, you can have that illusion that he might just come around the corner. This has all just been a bad dream type thing.
Exactly, man. Exactly, and yeah, that's exactly it to a T. Like as soon as you start talking about it, as soon as you start accepting it, it becomes real.
Yeah.
It's no longer a story. It's no longer non-fiction. It's actually fact, and it's the acceptance side of things that, like, everyone goes through the the 7 stages of grief and all that sort of stuff, but you end up darting forward and skipping steps, and you're darting back, and it's the denial stage, which is the hardest one to get out of. Well, it was the hardest one to get out of for me anyway. Denying the fact that it's not real, and that took me years to get over. Just not accepting it, basically, not believing that it couldn't possibly happen to us, and couldn't possibly happen to my family. As a whole lot of people don't ever expect. Like, everyone knows that there are some bad sorts in this world, and there's some really good sorts. And I like to believe that, me and my family, we're some of the good sorts. We've all got our flaws, but me and my family, I like to believe, and I like to believe everyone's perception of us as well, is that we're good people, and these sort of nasty things, they're not supposed to happen to people like us. And that was the really hardest thing to grip. And then watching after the situation, after my brother was killed, you kind of become, it sounds weird, but you kind of become really popular. Yeah. Because your story is so public, and newspapers, and you're on the news, and you're dealing with court appearances, and you're forced to face said people who happen to be in the car that day, and the person who put the trigger. You're because you have to. Like you're forced to do it because you have to. Like, you have to follow the justice system, and you have to play the victim in many ways or another. Because as soon as you stop playing the victim, well, then they get away with it. And I suppose the worst part about it, I feel that they did get away with it. Is out of the 4 people that happened to be in this car, and I'm not going to bother bringing names into this because they know who they are. The person who pulled the trigger, he ended up serving less than 4 years.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and the other 3 people, one of them who actually stole the gun from his father's shed, I think it was. I can't quite remember, but he stole his father's gun, which was obviously the murder weapon. He ended up with something silly like a bloody suspended sentence and a $5,000 fine, and essentially a slap on the wrist. And the other 2 got away with absolutely nothing. And yeah, as I say, I think it was in total like 4 years and maybe 9 months. In 2.5 years of that, I'm pretty sure he was in remand. So after that time in remand, he was, there's already time taken off. So in actual jail, he spent just over 2 years. And like that, to me, like, you've literally got away with murder. So yeah, that was a really, really hard pill to swallow. I'm left with a lifetime without my brother, and my family a lifetime without their son. It's one thing to lose a brother. Like, we're 18 months apart and best of mates. As all brothers do, we fight and you have your times. But the hardest one and it wasn't until my later years to actually realise is that my parents had just lost a son. It wasn't until I became a father myself about 5.5 years ago was when I actually realised, out of all this ordeal, I've completely ignored the feelings of my own parents, because they lost a son. I couldn't think of anything worse, and I'm sure you couldn't either. Like, if you were to lose any of your kids, like that would just break me, and that's why I suppose I was really sorry towards my parents, is because I would never want that, and they lost their baby. My brother was only 19 years old, and that's their baby, that's their eldest baby, and that was the hardest thing, I think, in most recent times. That when you dealing with a loss like that, you kind of just get blindsided and you forget about the other people in your family. Yeah. So yeah, it's supposed to answer your question originally, man. Yeah, it was just the drug game, and he made some really bad decisions, but we've all made terrible decisions before. But he was just the one bad decision to have finished his life, unfortunately.
So let me grab it's a bit hard to contemplate that, but
yeah.
How did he get just the 4 years? Was it manslaughter as opposed to first degree murder, or how's that? I don't understand that.
Yeah, correct, mate. Yeah, so he ended up it was essentially the insanity plea. So he was hyped up on drugs. The murderer, that is, the person who killed him. So he was hyped up on drugs and all the rest. A jury found him not guilty of murder. Murder 1, I suppose, I think it was, or second degree. I can't quite remember. It's a bit of a haze. But anyway, he got down to manslaughter. So yeah, that's why he got the lesser thing. And at the time, when you got things like within the justice system called truth in sentencing, essentially you admit to, yes, I killed him, but it was unintentional. That's you essentially admitting to manslaughter. But I didn't kill him deliberately because I wasn't aiming at him. Yeah, it's a weird one, man. But yeah, so again, sorry, I'm rambling here, but it was done for manslaughter in the end. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, definitely
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So their story, they admitted to the jury and the court to say that they were out shooting cans and parrots and whatnot. That's the reason why they had the gun. And they ended up rolling up to their house, and they wanted to take a pot shot at the house as like a warning shot. And that was their story anyway. Yeah. But I don't believe that for a second. I can't believe that for a second. You know, like you don't ever take a gun into suburbia and then aim at the front door of some random person's house without the intention for pulling the trigger. Like you don't ever. I don't believe that they were there for a warning shot. But then again, they were acquitted of it. Sorry, I suppose, and all four of them or have been walking the streets for quite a while now.
Have you seen them since?
I have actually. Yeah, I have. The person who killed my brother, he like I said, the very short time he spent in jail, I've seen him several times. In driving past around town and. Walking past him in the street and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, that was really, really hard not to walk over and just stop him in his tracks. Like I don't want to know and don't want to think about what I could do if I would ever get my hands on him. Because I'd probably be behind bars myself. And like I mentioned before, like you got to play the victim. You got to stay the victim, because at the point in time that if I was to act on it, if I was to walk him down and find him and do something really stupid, that's when I become the perpetrator. That's when he becomes the victim, and I could never do that. I haven't got a hateful bone in my body. I can, I'm the one who's always the one breaking up fights and, trying to keep the peace. And, like I said, if I ever saw him, I don't know what I'd do. I really don't know what I would do.
What about your brothers? Have your brothers seen him, and have you guys talked about this?
Yeah, me and my two brothers, we used to talk about it a lot. They were too young at the time when it all happened, to go out and about into town like I was doing. I was out partying all the time, and that's when I bumped into him a lot, or not bumped into him. Sorry, I saw him. I visually saw him, but no, that they never. They voiced their anger. They voiced their feelings about it, but they never had the chance to act on it, I suppose, if that makes sense. Like they were never driving by and just happened to see him, sort of thing. Yeah. So like again, we talk about these sort of things, and we talk about our feelings and talk about how we what we'd like to do, but never ever act on them. And that's also the double-edged sword, where you get super angry and you can, being a typical bloke, you bottle up that anger for years, and that's what can also make or break a person, him or herself.
Do you feel the gym's helped heaps, like getting out that anger that's deep down, or obviously it's helped you get over the whole drug thing? How do you feel that the gym's helped you in this?
Oh man, that's been my main crutch. The gym is. I suppose I started off with it just to obviously start the health thing and get off the stupid decisions that I was making at the time and changing myself. But then the gym became the newest addiction, and it still is. Obviously, we're give or take 8 or 9 years into the gym now, and is the addiction now. It's also the putting myself initially through some pain, I suppose, just to feel something. Because after these sort of ideals, like you become numb to everything, and that's it's not healthy mentally, but it's just again just a way to feel something, and you feel like you've achieved something at the same time as you've pushed yourself to a limit And I've had days where I can't even walk after a leg day, or I've had days where I can barely hold a beer or even my drink bottle because I've pushed my arms to their limits. But it's that addiction which is just the best feeling, and I wouldn't give it up for quids.
Do you want to do any competitions? I know you said you did the deadlift, squat, and the bench. That's sort of like a powerlifting competition thing in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Like those sort of weights are definitely aspiring to do well in a competition. But I suppose I was, in many ways or another, fearful of actually doing any competitions. And when I say fearful, is I didn't want to lose my enjoyment for the gym. I didn't want the powerlifting side of things to take over. I didn't want that to become, the next goal, because I didn't want to lose my addiction. I didn't want to lose my my love for the gym, because in my head, and still is now in my head, I thought that if I was to train to so many specifics in there, that would change my mental game. And I want to go in there and enjoy it. I don't want to go in there and make it feel like a job.
Yeah.
I want it to, I just want to keep having fun, and that's what it still is. And I've always had these goals to achieve some really heavy weights in the bar, and I've achieved them all. And now it's time to switch that up. Switch that up and go the complete opposite direction. Now focus on the weights, on my body weight side of things, and just change, man. And new goals and everything. That's the best achievement. To be able to achieve your own personal goals is everything. It's absolutely everything.
I totally agree. That's what I always tell people. You're not competing against the person next to you. You're competing against the person you were yesterday. You just want to keep getting
Absolutely.
better and improving upon the person that you were yesterday. So before you know it, you're amazing. You're like the best version of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right, man. Exactly right. And the point in time, which, because you're never going to beat yourself.
Yeah.
You're never actually going to be able to beat yourself, but you can beat the person that you were yesterday, like you say, and you can achieve the next step. And there's days that you have your lazy days, or you just simply don't get onto the treadmill, for example. You don't go for that cardio. You miss a couple of things. So the next day you better that by doing twicefold, or you better that by doing an extra 5 minutes on the treadmill. There's always a way to better yourself, and that's what I'm realizing now is if it doesn't matter essentially what you did or didn't do the day before. Is you got to live in the now, and you can better yourself today because of what you didn't achieve the other day or the previous week, or you set yourself a future goal for that next week or that next month or that next year. There's always a way that you can always better yourself. And at the moment, the plan is I've put a 12-month plan in place, and the goal is to strip down 25 kilos. So from 135 down to 110. And once within that 12 months period, once I get that 25 kilos down, which is the goal, whether I get there or not, that's another story. And I'm not going to be upset if I don't get it, but as long as I've given it my all, and try and maintain it. I've never been, well, I obviously have, but in my adult years, I don't think I've ever been under 115 kilos. So this is a massive feat for me to try and achieve, and just be lighter and be healthier for my kids.
Yeah.
I've got two beautiful kids, and I've got an amazing wife, Sam. She's just my rock, man. And my eldest boy, he's 5 now, Ethan, and my daughter Aubrey, who's now 6 months old, just over 6 months. And I do everything I am, everything I do is for them. And if I can better myself and be a healthier version of myself mentally as well as physically, I hope in that I can make them proud. because it's one thing to be proud of your kids, but it's a completely other thing for your kids to be proud of you.
Yeah.
And that to me that's everything, man.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in you have to lead by example, and you're definitely showing your kids, like, see, I can achieve it, Dad can achieve it, you can achieve your goals as well. So just set yourself a goal, figure out how to do it. Like you said you have a 12-month plan to achieve that goal, which is good because lots of people will say, I want this, I want to lose 5 kilos, I want to do this. But they keep saying it. Been hearing the same people say for years, I want to lose 5 kilos, I want to do this. But you've actually gone the extra step and you've set yourself a plan. You've written it down because writing down is like such a massive thing. Yeah, so you actually got to have a plan to be able to achieve that. There's no point. Oh, what's the old saying? Something like goals without a plan are just dreams or something like that. So yeah, it's so good that you've actually set the plan in place and you go step by step every day and you're living in the present and you just keep chipping away and then you eventually get to where you are. So I know you're going awesome physically and you touched on mentally. What things are you doing mentally to empower your mind? Are you like listening to certain like podcasts, reading books, doing courses? Are you going anywhere in there?
No, I'm not actually. I'm the mental game. It is just talking to people. Is getting advice for me anyway. That's what works for me. Like I've never really been a huge reader. I haven't ever really been huge for the mental health podcasts and all that sort of stuff. Not really. I've been more or less talking to people, and also being spoken to, like, so I can take and listen and take advice. The biggest one, as I touched on before, was at the moment has been my cousin Tom, who's a nutrition coach and who is a big coach up in Perth for he does CrossFit, and he spent a lot of time over in the UK, which he still goes backwards and forwards between to obviously see his partner. And he's been the biggest help with the change in the mental game currently. Obviously nutrition being the main one, and then just writing down has been a big thing as well. Like just sit on my phone and or a piece of paper or something like that, and writing what I want to achieve, what I have achieved, how I'm feeling, and I suppose when I do write it down on a bit of paper, the most liberating thing is just burning it. I end up having this massive, and I mean actually getting a lighter and actually burning it. Like I have this massive mental dump, and just jot it all down of what I'm feeling, what happened today, and my frustrations, my joys, and everything else. And then once I know that it's out of the old noggin, I just get a lighter, throw it away, let it burn, and then I don't ever forget about it. But I know that I've said my piece. I know that I've said what I've had to say, and it's a really, really nice ability to move on from what was going on in my head. It almost feels like a little bit of closure from those aspects of life at the time. Yep. And that was actually a really beautiful thing that my mother, Annette, she assisted me with when I was a younger man, when the stuff with Lawrence was occurring. Me and my mum, we would just simply sit across the table from each other out the back. She'd have a usual glass of brandy and I'd have a beer, and we would simply just not say a word. We would have a big pad of paper and a pen each, and we'd just scribble all this stuff over this piece of paper, and then we'd throw the book at each other. You'd write it down. Like we wouldn't even necessarily read what each other had written. And then by the time we would finish, we'd sit by the bonfire, or we'd grab the lighter and we'd just burn it. Right. And that is one thing that I've brought with me to my now later years, is just having that mental dump. Is just getting it out. And even like what we're doing right now, like we're voicing and we're getting it out. even right now, I feel light. I feel lighter. That I'm able to have this current brain dump. And yeah, no, that's been the best aspect of getting the head right. And
No,
yeah,
that was awesome. I've actually done that same thing with other people before, like to help them. That they've been, as you said, you got to get it out of your head. You just leave it in there, especially as you know, I drive the dump trucks, and us machinery operators, you're in those trucks for 12 and a half a day, 12 and a half hour day, but you're in the trucks for probably about 11 of them, and you can do your own head in. If you just keep rethinking the same thoughts over and over and over again. I've seen we had this older bird that used to work with us who, all day she just think negative stuff over and over and over again, and it's horrible for you. But you're exactly right, just to write it down, get it out of your head, and the burning it, you're the only other person I've heard actually do that. Like I said, I've done it before in the past with other people. But yeah, because you're getting rid of it. Because if you do write it down and you leave that bit of paper hanging around the place, it's always there. You need to burn it.
Exactly.
Chuck the ashes in the bin or scatter them somewhere far away in the ocean or wherever. You got to get it away from you anyway. That's like awesome.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just it's just that, like I said before, it's like the closure, and it's just release. And it's, you can physically see. You see in cartoons when you're growing up, right? You got the big bubble up here, and you see what they're thinking. Then poof, it's just gone. And it's that sort of aspect of it all. When you're physically jotting it down, you can see the words. The words now, therefore, in your head, they're not there. Sorry. They're no longer stuck up here. They're now stuck on this bit of paper. And as soon as you light it up and you screw it up, you rip it up, you're physically getting rid of it. And you either dose into the bin, you just throw the ashes into the wind. You do something with it. It's physically just no longer there. And it's very calming. It's very again, it's very liberating. It's just gone. And it's just a massive weight off the shoulders.
Oh, big time. We're literally going to run out of time. I thought we've got 40 minutes to play with. And do you know that that's actually been like 37 minutes?
Well, there you go, brother. Well, I'm glad I could short some of your time, man.
Yeah, I was hoping to go for a bit longer, but because we're going to wrap up soon, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
No, not at all, man. I think I've got my story out there, and again, if I can hand over any beautiful pieces of advice, is set those goals, but set one massive goal, like set a 12-month goal like I have, for example, but have those miniature goals in between. So have a 2-monthly goal, have a 2-weekly goal. Set a goal, have something to work towards, and just if you do and you are having mental health issues, or you're dealing with stuff in day-to-day life, either write it down, burn it, destroy it, get rid of it somehow so it's out of your out of your head. Talk to your partners, talk to a complete stranger. Again, like, you talk to an absolute stranger about these situations, they're not going to bother telling anyone because they don't know you from a bar of soap. but obviously you've got to find someone who's willing to listen. Talk to your workmates. Physically get the words out of your gob. Get it out, and you will feel better for it. And there's always help out there. And it took me a long time to realize that, but now I do. It's I wouldn't change it. Would not change it.
No, awesome. That was an awesome bit of advice to leave with. It was like a knowledge bomb, like a drop the mic. See ya.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's not until you realise that people have lived these situations that you need advice. You don't always figure this stuff out by yourself.
No.
And if one person's tragedy could be your bit of advice that you kind of need, well, hey, take it.
Yeah, my wife just posted what was her post? It was basically just saying that. It's like your story can be somebody's learning tool or something like that. It was basically what you just said.
Yeah, exactly right.
Where can people follow you on social media if they want to check your stuff out?
If they want to have a look, I'm on Instagram at Dinkum324. that's mine. If you want to tag me in this in the podcast, mate, you by all means go for it.
Yep.
You can also find me on Facebook and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm all around the place, mate.
Sweet as. All right, I did the little. Oh, before we wrap up, did you have fun being on the show?
Oh, absolutely, mate. It was good to spin a yarn with you on a instead of being at working at the gym with you. It's good to have a good old chin wag about with what's going on up here. It's good.
Sweet as. Yeah. Oh, thanks for that. Oh well, that's a wrap. I'd like to thank you again for coming on the show, and I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening. Please tell a friend about the podcast and have a fantastic day. All right, bye.
So, brother.
So that turned out sweet. I'll just press stop on the recording.